When you are working in-house, what does success really look like? Is it the big, shiny launch? Or is it the feedback in the wild? Those small anecdotal comments that prove you're actually shifting the culture? Welcome back to our special series, Inside Service Design. These are the conversations where we skip the conference polish and get straight to the real talk. It's all about uncovering the lived experiences and the on-the-ground insights from the professionals who are in the trenches, shaping services from the inside. Hi there, and welcome back to the Service Design Show. Now, we often hear about the thoughts and ideas from the well-known pioneers in our field, which is fascinating. But I'm just as passionate about the messy middle. The stories from in-house professionals who aren't in the spotlights, but are doing the crucial day-to-day work. They're the ones who live in that gap between a clean theoretical model and the complexity of reality of being in an organization. Bringing their stories to you is what this series is all about. This conversation is the next in our deep dive, and today we're joined by Emilie Moravec and Jeff Hoekwater. Both Emilie and Jeff are experienced professionals working on the inside, and they're also a valued member of the Circle community, where they recently hosted some truly thought-provoking sessions. In this episode, you'll hear us reference the Circle a few times, and if you are not familiar with it yet, it's good to know that the Circle is a community for in-house service design leaders and those on that path. I started the community because driving change inside an organization is an endurance race, and many are running that race all by themselves. So with the Circle, we want to provide those professionals with their own pit crews, a team of peers who give you support, provide a sense check, and share practical advice. If you are curious, you can learn more about us at servicedesignshow.com/circle. And as always, the link is also in the show notes. As I mentioned, in this episode, you'll hear from two community members, Emilie and Jeff. We'll explore their journeys into service design, from backgrounds in social work, theology, and even interior design. And you'll hear how both of them were nudged into our field by, their spouses. We unpack the key takeaways from their Circle sessions. Emilie shares a future simulation of what education in 2038 might look like when VR is the default. And Jeff shares a compelling case for why we must keep some things stubbornly human. And of course, we get into the nitty-gritty of in-house service design. Jeff shares the hard-won lessons that it's not about the artifacts, it's about the relationships. And Emilie talks about her team's brilliant practice of collecting feedback in the wild to get through those tough days. So I hope you are ready for some honest stories and practical wisdom that you will not find in the textbooks. I am your host, Mark Fontijn, and you are listening to the Service Design Show. Welcome to the show, Emilie and Jeff.
Hi, Mark.
It's always interesting to do this introduction simultaneously. Good to have you on. We'll chat about service design, in-house service design, inside service design. We'll talk a little bit about your Circle community sessions. We'll maybe do some myth busting around what it is to do service design in-house. A lot of fun things to explore. But one of the topics I always like to start with is sort of your journeys into this amazing field. And today I want to start with you, Emilie. You are in a very fascinating organization, at least from my perspective. This is an example for me that service design has percolated everywhere. Service design is really everywhere. So I'm curious, can you share a little bit about your journey into this service design position? Let's start with that. Your journey into this service design position.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here. Well, I think, like many, my path to service design was anything but linear. Actually, started my career in social work, in adult day centers and schools, which I think actually gave me an early appreciation for systems, how they can support people or hinder people. From there, I actually headed into the theater world where I worked with area school teachers in creating study guides that would support their students in the classroom when they came to see theater shows. So they were trying to connect their lives to these theater experiences and everyday learning, while also meeting some government mandates. So that was another fascinating career shift. And later, I decided to study theology. So I obtained a master's degree in theology and the arts, which I think just deepened my understanding for curiosity and belonging, and the power of community. And then another shift during the pandemic, like many people started to reimagine or want to use my brain in a different way. What was next? And ended up studying UX design at the suggestion of my spouse, who's a software engineer. And he said, the way that your brain works, you'd really love UX. And I was like, I have no idea what UX is. But that opened up a whole new way and language, a new way of thinking and a new language. And gave me that human-centered design lens that I think I was missing all along, and eventually led to my current position, which is an innovation partner at a faith-based nonprofit. And I work most closely in our unit with our service and justice teams. So those are teams that are providing services for disaster response, world hunger, migration support. So we provide grants and resources and training to support those that are normally on the margins of our communities. And I've been there about 2 years.
Amazing. Like I said, so fascinating how people get into service design, how they find their way into this place. You mentioned something about belonging and community. We'll get back to that because that
Sure.
is, of course, a topic that I'm also very passionate about. But I want to hand over the microphone to Jeff for a moment. Do you also have like this peculiar path into service design, or did you just go straight? Did you get out of service design school from day one and jump into this, Jeff? What is your journey?
Mine isn't maybe that of a journey as Emilie's, but I started in interior design school actually. So I've come from a completely different design background than service design is. I started in interior design and quickly decided that that wasn't so much for me. So I started looking into different design schools, and I found a university in England where I moved to study exhibition design. And I did a bachelor's and a master's in museum and exhibition design. And where interior design is very static, and or at least to my perception, I found it to be very static. Exhibition design very colorful for people. You know, really that education aspect to it, and I really enjoyed that. So when I finished school, I moved back to the Netherlands because of the financial recession at the time, and I found a job in as an intern at an exhibition design company in Amsterdam, and I basically worked there for 10 years, worked all
As an
over the
intern?
world. No, luckily not as an intern, no. Did some interning, but yeah, quickly moved to a junior position, luckily. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford rent in Amsterdam either. I worked on museums all over the world. I lived in China for a while. I did a stint in Malaysia. Did a little museum in Bonaire in the Caribbean. It was pretty amazing experience. Really started out as just we come in, make a museum, kind of like a design exercise. But we could quickly notice that we really wanted that collaboration with our clients, and so we we started doing workshops and really that kind of iteration with our clients. And at one point, we started testing with our users as well, which was really funny because one of my colleagues at the time, she really wanted to talk to kids whether our exhibitions were actually, hitting the mark. And that was really fun. And I really started to get that kind of user research experience and interest in that kind of field. And when I met my wife at the time, she was like, "Oh, you should really check out this service design thing." And I was like, because my wife is a UX designer, and I didn't even know that was a thing, and I didn't really get it either. So I was like, "What is this?" So I applied for an agency, and I worked there for 2 years as well as a service designer. Worked a lot with welfare and agencies. Municipalities and the government, which was a very good experience. Really learned a lot. And after that, I moved on to Riverty, which is a FinTech, completely different thing, so much more commercial, but in-house. It's very different than an agency. And I've been there for 4 years, and I lead a team of 3. So it's nice.
I'm already seeing a pattern emerge that we should be targeting spouses with these episodes. That's the Trojan horse in every every service design professional has a spouse that got them there maybe. Anywho, drifting off. So this series is called Inside a Service Design. We sort of try to pull the curtains, lift the curtains on what it actually looks like to do in-house service design, because sometimes, I don't know, you read a book, you see a presentation at a conference, but very rarely you get to see the nitty-gritty stuff that people are actually doing. So let's dive into that for a moment. Jeff, if you can share something that you're working on right now without disclosing any details that might get you fired, because that's not the goal of this episode, but like, what are some of the challenges that come on your plate, on your responsibility? What are you contributing to?
Yeah, so currently working on 2 larger projects, 2 very different projects as well. So we are looking into automating customer service, or the responses to customer service. And it's a little bit more of a on the ground research, customer needs type of project, and working on in a cross-disciplinary team to get those automations live. And the challenge there is to have this continuous approach to it. So we push something live, and then we continuously check it whether it was actually the thing that solved the need. And that kind of continuous aspect is pretty important there. It's also easy to lose, I say, because as a service designer, you kind of, you come in, you drop off again when the need is low, and then you come in again, and kind of having this continuous presence can be challenging, especially when there's multiple projects going on. And then the second project is more like a strategy project. So we have a couple of strategic bets for products, and I'm looking into how the future would look for those products, and doing anything that needs to be done. So just doing stakeholder interviews, doing qualitative, quantitative research, just basic documentation that hasn't been done before. So it's a completely different challenge. There is mostly getting everybody on board, and also a little bit that continuous aspect, because there's a lot of things switching and changing, and it's challenging to keep everybody on board. So there's that aspect again, that kind of continuity. Yeah, so those are the 2 big things.
Yeah. So one is maybe more practical, improving the day-to-day things that are already running, and the other one is more future-oriented. What could be? Where should we be heading? More strategic, maybe. There I say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Emily, do you recognize a similar split, or like you mentioned that your official job title is like innovation partner instead of service design? So I'm curious, like, what are some of the challenges that make it to your desk?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think there is definitely that split. Right now in the US, we are dealing with a lot of government cuts to funding some of our services here that affect the most vulnerable populations. And those are the teams that I serve or I work with. And so sometimes it's responding immediately to some of those needs. So we have groups of churches locally that are trying to respond to hunger crises as people can't get food. So that kind of innovation, as an innovation partner, trying to respond very locally, very quickly with those teams, and what are our churches needing? What is that local response gap? What are we? How are we providing training or resources so they can provide food very quickly? So sometimes it feels very quick, and then we have other projects. Our team is working on a research. We just started some research for a deep dive into our grant processes. We have about 40 different processes in our organization for granting, and about 30 staff that are involved in those processes. And in the 2 years that our team in this current iteration has been together, we've just noticed that our staff are hitting a lot of walls, that our grantees are very confused. And so this is something that our team said, okay, we're actually going to initiate this. And it might be a longer project. It's going to move very slowly, but we're just starting that phase of reaching out to our subject matter experts, having those conversations, tell us about this granting process, understanding the zoom out version. So now we can zoom in. So it's both ends depending on the needs of our constituents too.
The food crisis is of course a very immediate one, and I think one where you can see and feel the immediate tangible benefits of doing this work. I can imagine that's super satisfying. The other type of challenge that you described, that almost sounds like a dream service design project, because like, okay, there is a process in place, but like everybody who is listening right now is already imagining the journeys, the ecosystem maps, the stakeholder maps. Like this sounds like a spectacular project potentially.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, and I ask this question quite often, but if your work is so diverse, Emily, like how do you know on a Friday afternoon whether or not this has been a good week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I used to think that it would be when there was this really exciting launch or a product reveal or something like that, as I was studying UX. And now I kind of shifted a little bit. I think on a Friday afternoon, yes, when ready to shut the computer, it's those like offhand anecdotal comments in a meeting, or you get that email from somebody that you've been partnering with, a new team, that might signal success or shifts in the organization. Little things like people saying, oh, that felt way more collaborative, or I was able to understand the needs of that congregation way more. Thanks for that help. But for me, it's always anecdotal. And our team kind of calls that feedback in the wild. It's nothing that we have asked for. It's nothing that we looked to get, but it just signals success in those little ways. Or on the flip side, there are those bigger wins. I feel like when I start to hear teams that I work with start quoting the research back to me or refer to a user insight without me prompting them to do that, it kind of signals that shift that our organization is starting to speak that language of design, whether they know it or not. So it kind of shifted in my brain from a big launch of a product or a delivery service to, I'd say, those smaller wins right now anyway.
Do you have a mechanism to capture, collect, notice these wins?
Yeah, the feedback in the wild right now is just on a Miro board. So we just pop them in there, and as we're getting those emails or we get those notes. And that board is actually very nice to go back into if you're having a really crappy day and you just
Monday
want to go
morning,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, we can do this. We know what we're doing. So right now, that's where that feedback lives.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that that's a great place. If you'd be in a physical office, you might have like a wall of fame or I don't know, something like
Yeah.
that. And now that you're with a distributed team, then Miro is obviously one of the better solutions. What about you,
Definitely.
Jeff? Do you also have like a digital wall of fame or feedback in the wild, or do you have a different way of measuring success?
Yeah, I've heard the feedback in the wild thing a few times. It's actually pretty great.
Maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, I think so. We should start doing that, to be honest. Now, we haven't really got a structured approach to that. Personally, I think success is kind of twofold. I was just talking to one of my team members, and they said you should mention that just having this chat and making me feel good is one of one of the successes. Yeah, absolutely. Just having the team together and having the kind of the good feeling and is very important to me. And team culture is very important to the design team in our place. Anyway, that's just a very important aspect to it. And next to that, in the day-to-day work, I really enjoy puzzling something out together. That kind of, I found the right people, I found the right process, document or whatever, so we can take the next step forward.
Mm.
It's never about reaching that end goal. It's about the next step and just finding that little tidbitty thing. That is always a good feeling.
But it's like I love the metaphor of the puzzle, and when you see your work as one big puzzle, then I hope that you're like getting some pleasure out of puzzling. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long and tedious process. But the metaphor of a puzzle maybe also, I don't know, it potentially breaks down because in a puzzle, like if you are assembling 1,000 pieces, like you're really focused on getting to that final piece, and then it's done and that's success. Like nobody is celebrating that they found like piece 672. I have for anybody who's watching the YouTube video, I have a sign here, a poster here behind me, like love the game, play to win. You actually have to enjoy the puzzle, solving the puzzle instead of hoping, or waiting for the final puzzle to be ready. If that makes sense, right, Jeff?
No, absolutely. I think, especially in our work, the end is never there. There's always the next thing.
The puzzle is it's an infinite puzzle.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you just get another box.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You have to enjoy puzzling. Maybe that's the answer to doing this work. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing. So, speaking about puzzles, we try to solve a lot of puzzles, or at least find clues, because as we just concluded, solving puzzles is probably not the place for service design. We try to do that in our circle community, and one of the formats that we do that in is what we call our dinner table sessions. We sit down with 10, 15 smart service design professionals and we puzzle together. We try to solve things. Every quarter, we have a season. In this quarter, which is the last quarter of 2025, we started a new season called Humanity and Tech, where we all sort of look into what are the implications of humanity and tech related developments for service design? Like, what does this mean for us? And we're collecting dots in order to hopefully sort of thread through the dots or connect them in hindsight. You both had the honor and pleasure to be the host of a dinner table session, and would love to get into a little bit more details about what you talked about. So, Emilie, I'm going to start with you. The funny aspect is that you are part of a house in our community, which I'm not able to participate in because it's the middle of the night. But we do nowadays have like an AI generated summary of our conversation. So during my lunch, I was listening to this summary. I'm really curious if that will sort of resemble what you're about to share. Your session was about education in 2038. Could you sort of take us back to how you got onto this topic and what did you do with your fellow circle members?
That's wonderful. Yeah, thanks. A few months ago, I was at an AI summit where we were talking about AI and humanity. Of course, that's a big topic. And Jane McGonigal, who's a gamer, futurist, came and spoke with us, and she created this future simulation for us to walk into. And I was really struck by that. I was struck by her work, and one thing that she had mentioned when I was at that summit was that when you create a future or a simulation, it actually triggers the same synapses in your brain as memory. So you can go back to that time and think about it, but really it's the future, and think of, how would I respond? What was needed in that moment? And so as I saw the new season, the Humanity and Tech, come up for the circle, I was reminded of that future simulation. And I thought this would be a really fun opportunity to bring a future idea or a future world to a group of service designers, and say, hey, how would we respond to this future simulation? And so I put together, as you said, Mark, a context, which was education in the year 2038, so 13 years from now, so maybe not too far off, where virtual reality education was the default model of learning and not something you would just opt into. So I read a scenario where every child at the age of 5 is issued a headset, and that grants them access to this virtual campus. There's AI tutors available. We talked about some of the benefits of this model would be, there's equitable access to education. So there's no more underfunding for schools. There's no overcrowded classrooms. So talked about that context, but also the reality that in the virtual reality world of education, maybe our communities are breaking down. There's some confusion for students as far as presence confusion and what they're doing with their avatars and changing their avatars. So actually created a couple empathy maps for a teacher and a student, just so we could really dive into that space. And then we spent most of our time really just talking about, okay, now we've got this future reality that we are given a challenge as service designers to respond in, which was, how might we redesign the learner experience to nurture community and well-being? That was kind of our focus for the conversation. We talked a little bit about how humanity can break down in the space and how then we could redesign for humanity.
It's so fascinating and interesting. 13 years isn't far out. And I think my daughter would definitely sign up if she could get a VR headset at the age of 5.
5.
And what you mentioned about how community and belongings may be breaking down if we move to doing things fully online. If we look at our circle community, we are doing this fully online, right? We are a group of right now about 70 professionals who just mostly know each other through online interactions. Fortunately, we had the pleasure of actually meeting some of us at some conferences recently, but this is something which is very top of mind. How do you build community when you're not in a physical, in the same physical environment with each other? It's a great design challenge. I will get back to you, Emilie, in a second for what some of the big insights, highlights were for you from that session. But I want to jump to Jeff for a second, because what I like and with the parallel that I see is I was present in your session, Jeff, and you also prepared a scenario or multiple scenarios. So it feels like we're getting into storytelling and telling about scenarios and trying to sort of project from that. Tell us a little bit more about your session and the topic, Jeff.
What I wanted to go in, and what interests me currently, is this almost distancing you get from the digital side of the world. So we're getting into more digital, and I'm also working with customer service and the digital aspect to that. And I see what's happening is kind of this dehumanization of the digital aspect of it is like you're just watching a screen. And we're video chatting right now, so you're still talking to a human, but mostly it's just texts, or not even that, right? It's just a ping or something that you need to react to. And it's very easy to get lost in the protocols and to get lost in the forms that you need to fulfill out, or just the way it's structured or something. So it's kind of, you're not talking to the person behind the screen anymore, but you're talking to the digital intermediary of whatever the system needs you to do. And I wanted to explore that in a couple of different scenarios, as you said, Mark. And I created these 3 scenarios. One focusing on when people need to input something into a system, like a form, or like a welfare application form or something like that, and they need to really, uh, slim down their answers to what's in the form, so they can, do the thing that is required of them, instead of this how you would do things from a human perspective, right? Just talking or just making errors or whatever. So that was one. And then on the other side is like this, from the digital media, like a big tech platform or something, towards people, their customers. At what point does empathy become theater of these big platforms? For instance, having these apology emails that are just very insincere, or once you cancel a subscription or something, that's the "we're sorry you're leaving" thing. That can feel very ingenuine. Is that a word?
Mm-hmm.
For now, it is. And then the third one, are this personal story of me and my wife going into an ice cream shop, and it being like very digitalized and over the top, just digitalized, and the experience was overwhelming, and yeah, to be honest, not fun, because it was so on screen and you just got handed this over, and it wasn't human anymore. So the final topic was, what do we keep human no matter the cost?
You had a beautiful phrase like stubbornly human. I really like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So even though the technology becomes very capable, what do we stubbornly keep human no matter what?
Mm. Um, your scenarios were very vivid. I think everybody in the group was able to relate and has been in one of those situations, or multiple, unfortunately. So it was really easy to relate to that. What did you see happening with the group? So, like, what's the implication for us as service design professionals?
What do you mean?
So we had these, we explored these scenarios,
Mhm.
and we are here as service design professionals thinking about how this impacts our day-to-day practice. What did you hear? What did you see? How did our members respond to that?
Sure. So at this scenario where the people could read out or just read by themselves, and add a couple of prompts next to that, like for instance about "we're sorry for the inconvenience" message, and also add this prompts for like, when does a friendly tone cross into manipulation? And people really latched onto both those things. So both from a personal experience, it's like, oh yeah, we've had these emails and they always seem very deceptive, or just very insincere. And also like these prompts, like it becomes manipulation almost, right? It's like, we don't want you to go, and we don't want to cause a scene, so we're being like, forwardly apologetic almost. It's like both fake, and people really latched onto these kind of both personal experiences and also from their own experience. So there was this one story that really stuck to me about being prepared for scenarios where things could go wrong, so you might never even have to do these kind of apologetic emails because you were prepared for it. And there was a couple of these stories around that, and I really like that. That seemed like a very, very good way to go about it.
And I also sort of felt in the group that at some point, like the shift towards more technology is inevitable. Like things will become more efficient, cost saving, faster, cheaper, like all those things. That also provides an opportunity to actually show the value in places where time and space is being created. And I think as service design professionals, we are in a good place to advocate for that human value and show how that can be created. Like your ice cream shop was a great example. Some good stories emerge around that. So I really like that exploration. It's like, it's almost, that I wanted to say it's almost like science fiction, like forecasting to the future, but that's actually more what Emilie was trying to do in our session. And this wasn't even science fiction. This is daily reality, although for some it might be science fiction. Cool, thanks. So Emilie, going back to you, what was the response of your group? How did people react? I don't know, scared, intimidated, excited? Like, what did you feel in the group?
I think it was all those things, and actually, definitely the same themes came out. And one of my fellow circle members said something like, connection and humanity will always be a part of service design, even as technology is evolving. We're always going to come back to that. So we were able to name some of those values, and we seem to always come back to humanity and connection. But similarly, Jeff, something that we talked about too is how service designers are really good with the if we do this, then this scenario. We're really good at those systems mappings and the ripples of some of the consequences of making certain decisions. So we can uncover those blind spots. We can name those trade-offs, and we can also name the benefits of the evolving technology based on what our users are saying. So I think it was both. It was both, and we could see the benefits, we could see the trade-offs. But something that we kind of came down to is like, we're going to be needed to keep the humanity piece there, as you were saying, Mark. And if we continue to do our research, which we're also really good at, then we will learn about the technology. Maybe we can adopt it early. We can try it, test it, iterate. And so I think generally felt hopeful at the end that we'll have a place in evolving tech.
So that's super interesting. Like, I feel there is a certain level of anxiety in our field, maybe in a lot of fields right now. Like, things are uncertain, things have always been uncertain, but maybe now more things are moving than ever. And in these conversations, like, sure, you get some practical tips, insights, things you might apply today, but maybe the biggest value that our members are getting out of this is actually sort of the collective confidence, the collective optimism, hopefulness that there is still a place for us, which is really hard to find if you scroll through a X thread or your LinkedIn feed where everybody's trying to scare you and make you anxious into the new technology. It helps to just speak to people who are sort of, grounded and take the time to reflect. Did you feel that as well, Emilie?
Absolutely, yes. It felt like coming out of the conversation, there was definitely a hopefulness that maybe we started this future scenario feeling really doom and gloom, that everything's virtual, that it's online. And we did. We came back to say, no, there's definitely a place. There's a place to find humanity in all of these evolving tech. There's a place for service designers in all of it. So it did. It definitely ended on a more hopeful note.
Yeah. Humans, interesting design objects. One question for you about the session, Jeff, is okay, so we explored these scenarios. We are looking at humanity and tech and all the tensions that arise there. But at the end of the day, you work within an organization that is there to make a profit. You have deadlines, you have to-do lists. Like, what's one practical thing that you were able to take away from these conversations that you feel is helping how you do your work?
I think one of the things that pretty much always comes back in each of the dinner tables is a sort of a sanity check. Like, is the thing that we're doing, is that the right thing? And it pretty much always comes down to yes. It's like we just chat to each other and it's like, oh, how did you do that? And how did you do that? And what's your experience? And always feels to me like it's a very positive, like kind of a positive affirmation kind of things, like, oh yeah, we are doing the right thing, and this is, we should, plow on, let's say. and that's very difficult to find outside of the circle, I must say. And from this my own session, I just got a really positive vibe from sharing these scenarios and everybody engaging, and I just really like that community aspect to it. It's just really a lot of fun, and so it's a lot of positive vibes.
Yeah, I'm going to study you, my dear circle members. I'm going to make you a research subject. You will get a survey from me somewhere in the coming weeks, because I want to figure out if this is actually what this is contributing to. Like, are members feeling more impactful? Are they more optimistic? Are they, I don't know, or is this just a nice to have that you're getting this sense check? I don't think so. But like, we need to find some quantitative data. We need to measure some things. Otherwise, it's not true. The people with the Excel sheet told me. Cool. So let's wrap up the dinner table conversations again. If you're listening to this and you're interested and want to participate in these conversations instead of just listening to our conversations here on the podcast, check out the circle. The link is in the show notes. We are always welcome to new members as long as you're working in-house. Now, I want to transition to like the third chapter, the third act of this specific episode, and that is to maybe bust some myths about doing in-house service design, maybe reveal some secrets, hard-earned lessons. So, Emilie, you have this amazing, fascinating, puzzling journey into this space. If you look back on your evolution in service design, what do you feel is something that you might, that you wish you had known, I don't know, 2-3 years earlier that would have been a great help?
Yeah, I think just to enjoy the nonlinear path. I think every chapter and no matter what organization that we're working in, whatever context, you will learn something essential about people and systems and meaning making. So just relax and enjoy that nonlinear path. I think for not most of my time, I'm an overthinker. And so any decision, any shift, it was like, is this the right thing? Is this going to blow up my world? And it doesn't need to be like that. I think as I look back in the social work realm, even in the theater realm, I learned a ton about that organization. The organization taught me something, and that I've been able to apply in the service realm as well. So just enjoying the path, the nonlinear path, and soaking up the wisdom wherever you can get it.
And how did you? So I could give you this advice, right? And then you're listening to me and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm not sure what that means in practice. Like, was there a moment for you that you felt when it clicked, when you sort of felt, okay, this is what it is? Or was it a gradual progression?
As far as service design, naming it, there was definitely
and enjoying the nonlinear path, right?
No, I don't know if I'll ever enjoy it, but just that's not
accept
me.
It.
Accept it. Yeah, that it is good. It is good. But I do remember a moment that I had studied user experience design, UX design, but I was in a meeting with a team, and I really distinctly remember telling my supervisor, Phil, I think we're doing service design. Like, actually, it's just a small shift. I think it's service design. And Phil was like, I know, I've been saying that too. And so then we were like, we got to dive in, which is where the circle has been really helpful in giving us that reality check of like, yeah, we're all speaking the same language here. We're actually doing service design, though we're an innovation partner. So yeah, I remember that moment.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Emily. Say a similar question to you, Jeff. Like, what's a lesson that you feel you maybe learned the hard way, and you would like us listening to this episode maybe to avoid a useful tip?
To avoid. No, I think one of the harder lessons that I got from transitioning from an agency to in-house, and it's not about the artifacts, it's not about the reports, it's not about the journeys, it's maybe not even about the research. It's about connecting to your stakeholders and the relationships with your stakeholders. That is really the most important part of the job, I'd say. Without having good relationships, without connection with your colleagues and stakeholders, all the artifacts in the world is not going to make a difference. And I think that's for me one big shift that I had to make in the last years.
Yeah, so a similar question to you. We hear this often, of course, that relationships are very important in service design. But when did you get that realization?
Yeah, I think after trying to push my artifacts for so long that people started to be annoyed, and I was like, okay, if that kind of if multiple people say that you're the problem, you are the problem. and I really felt that it was about my way of writing things, or it was about me not being communicative enough about my artifacts. But at one point I was like, okay, it's not about the artifacts, it's about getting people to listen to the stories and to take them along on the journey. And I think that's a hard lesson, because I spend a lot of time writing reports, spend a lot of time perfecting opportunities with like nice wording, and then and now I'm currently like, okay, I don't care about that, just give me a how might we, whatever sentence comes after that. It's about getting the people on the table and around the table and getting them to chat to each other.
So how did your approach change compared to, I don't know, a year, 2, 3 years ago?
Yeah, that's actually interesting, because one of my colleagues, she did a study into our stakeholders. One of the questions that we had is like, why aren't people reading our artifacts? It's like, what is the problem? and we just noticed that exactly what I'm saying, right? It was like they didn't really care about them. So we were like, okay, so we need to make a pivotal shift here. It's like, we need to care less about those things and care less and more about the people, getting them on board. Yeah, so there was this research project that she did, and like a mind shift there that we had. And in the beginning of this year, there was also this, we had a vision workshop with the service design discipline. And at one point, we were like, we need to do process without process. And I was like, oh God, how do I even parse this? Because I can be very methodical. I am very methodical, and I can push that a little. I'm like, pushing the triple diamond, pushing the opportunity tree. And I got like this resistance to that almost, because people didn't want to process, they want results. And so this mindset shift of like, we need to do the process but without telling people that we're doing the process. So I was like, I need to do this. And yeah, that was also a shift. But I think those things come out of self-reflection with my teammates, just being honest to each other and to yourself. Okay, is this working?
Honest about
No.
what? Yeah.
Is this working? Yes, no. Do we need to do something else? Yeah.
And that sounds like a very logical thing to do, to reflect on whether or not you're actually making progress and moving forward. But I can imagine that in the the speed of the day-to-day, the never-ending list of to-do items, the deadlines, like finding time to zoom out, to reflect, to on a positive way critique your work, like where do you find it? But if you don't, like the price that you pay is that you're actually doing something which is maybe art instead of actually design, right? Emilie, I see you nodding all the time. So does Jeff's story resonate? And if so, I would also be curious, like, what would you add to this skill that you feel is indispensable for being successful in-house?
Yeah, definitely relate. I think we spend so much time making beautiful artifacts, and we're really proud of them. And so I love what you're saying, Jeff. Just taking that pause of is this really working? Something that our team actually recently just did was to take a step back and think about storytelling in general. So are there books out there we can read? What's out there just along storytelling? Our stakeholders, also our executives, do not want to hear about the tools and the process. So this was like shaking my head of like, yeah, just tell us the exciting bits, tell us the climax of the story, tell us what you did then. That's what they want to hear. But we nerd out and we love the process, and we've studied the process and we're very proud of it. And so it is hard to shift that and say, no, okay, stakeholders, they don't value that necessarily. But that's okay. That's okay. So it's just the artifacts maybe are going to look a little different. And so we're also trying to think of what does that design look like? And I was shaking my head, Mark, because you were saying it's like art, that we're proud of and that we're creating. So we have to definitely always be aware of that. An added skill, is that what's the second part of that question?
Exactly. Yes, I had a long question. Yes.
I think building, and this is related, so it's not necessarily additional, but something that feels like it has helped our team is just adding in that reflective space time, that we have to be really intentional about setting that time as a team, or if you don't have a team, individually, to take a step back. And as you were saying, Jeff, what's working, what's not working, what am I noticing about the system that I'm living and working within? Because it's so easy to just keep going to the next project, to the next project, to the next deliverable. And unless you build in that time, whether it's quarterly or monthly, it's just not going to happen.
And how are you doing that? Like, how do you intentionally build that time?
I think our team has to be accountable to one another. So thankfully we do have a team of 4. And so our supervisor's pretty good about building that time in and saying, we're going to take this next 90 minutes and it's only going to be retro. And we're only going to talk about this. Our team also meets a couple times a year in person, which helps us unpack some of those insights, what we're seeing across the organization, actually just taking a step away from our desks and meeting together, if you have the luxury and the privilege to do that, has been really helpful as well.
Good. Yeah. No, it's so important to have leadership who supports retrospectives and sort of sometimes like learn from the past in order to move quicker towards the future.
Absolutely.
If anyone is listening to this and doesn't have the space and would like to have an excuse, like, again, check out the links down below. You might find a good excuse to build some time for reflection. So I'm going to assume that people who are listening to this conversation are service design professionals, service design aficionados. Maybe they don't have service design in their official job title, but at least they sort of affiliate themselves with these topics. Some might be in-house, some might not be in-house. If you'd be in my spot, Emilie, What's a question you'd ask them?
I think I would ask them, what's something that your organization has taught you about design that you could not have learned anywhere else? And that kind of harkens back to what I was talking about, that linear path. I was thinking about what I learned, in my current context that I would not have learned anywhere else. I would love to hear that from other service designers. And I think it also gives you an appreciation for the space that you are in, that here I am now and I am learning something. So I think that's what I would ask.
I love that question. I'm going to steal it from you. We have a Discord channel and a
Absolutely.
sounding board. I'm going to post that question right after our recording. Okay.
Well, I'll be excited to see. I'll be excited to see what they say.
It's a great question. Jeff, what about you? What's a question that you'd like to ask?
And the question is towards the people who aren't in our circle yet.
Us listening, yeah.
Yeah. Oof. What's the thing that made you move to service design? It's like there's so many different paths. Why this specific discipline, and what do you hope to get out of it? Almost, because it's most people have an odd path to service design, and what was the trigger that made you move into the actual, except for spouses?
And I missed the opportunity, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. But of course, you need to answer your own question. So Jeff, what was it that made you move into service design?
Yeah, for me, it was almost a need to find different solutions to a problem.
Different compared to?
I was in the exhibition design field, and the answer was always, we make an exhibition. And I was working on a lot of different topics, and mostly about science and sustainability and whatever. And I was like, this can't be the only solution. So I was looking into a discipline that looked into different solutions and chased the action to get there. And service design just felt like the way to go.
Yeah, and now I'm hearing some people listening here, and then everything becomes a service, and then a service is a solution to everything. But everything is a service. Yes, I agree with the service dominant logic. So Emilie, also the question to you to of course answer your own question. Like, what is the thing that you learned from your organization about design?
And that's a hard question. Now I posed it and you turned it back on me.
There you go.
But I had time to think while Jeff was answering his question. So I think what I have learned about design in our organization is to be constantly thinking about equity and inclusion in ways I hadn't thought about it before. So also just equity design, co-creating with folks on the margins is a huge part of what we're doing. And I'm learning so much from others about the design that I'm not really the designer, that there are others in this process. And it was maybe an unexpected consequence of this particular position that I really appreciated.
Thanks for sharing, Emilie. And I love sort of finding the appreciation and the gratefulness in the context that we're in. It's of course it's hard to do service design in general, but finding these moments of light and again appreciation is so helpful. Last question for both of you. Any final words of wisdom towards us listening? Emilie, is there a message that you want to send out into the universe?
I would just encourage people to do some future forecasting, do some fiction design.
Buy your
it was
VR
really fun.
headset.
Yes. Yeah, it was really fun to step into that space. It was not something that I do very often. I think we're stuck in the reality too much. So yeah, I just invite you to think about the future and go to that space every once in a while. And if you can do it with a team, I think it's even more fun.
Love it. Do it with your kids as well. Yeah.
Yes.
If you have
they're
them.
so good. Yes, they're so good at that stuff.
Thanks, Emilie. Jeff, your final words of wisdom?
I think first of all, storytelling is important, and you should spend some time in honing those skills. It's I think delivering your story is so pivotal to getting to the right result. It's just really nice to do that. And I think in terms of themes, I think embrace humanity. Embrace the non-efficiency of just having genuine conversations and trust and connection, and keep it real.
Keep it real. Oh, all right. We'll do that. Thank you for coming on, Jeff. Thanks, Emilie, for getting up early for us and sharing your experiences, your words of wisdom with us listening today. Again, for everybody who's here and would like to continue the conversations with Jeff and Emilie, you can do so in our community. Hope to see you there. For now, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Emilie, and see you soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day.
And that's a wrap on our conversation with Emilie and Jeff. I hope you are walking away with some fresh perspective. I know I'll be thinking about Jeff's hard-won lessons, that it's not about the artifacts, it is really about the relationships, and his call to keep some things stubbornly human. And also Emilie's brilliant team practice of collecting feedback in the wild, and her great reminder to enjoy the non-linear path. In our conversation, Emilie asked a fantastic question that I want to pass on to you. What is something that your organization has taught you about design that you could not have learned anywhere else? I love to hear your answers. Please leave a comment on this episode on Spotify or YouTube. And as we talked about, driving this kind of change in-house is an endurance race. And if you are feeling like you're running that race all by yourself and could use your very own pit crew, well, that's exactly why we have built the Circle community. In the Circle, you'll find a group of smart, generous, and experienced professionals like Emilie and Jeff. The Circle is the place to get that honest sense check, share practical advice, and find the support you need to keep going. To learn more about the Circle and how you can join us, head over to servicedesignshow.com/circle. And of course, you'll also find this link in our show notes. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Service Design Show. My name is Mark Fontijn. Take care and see you soon.